If you want to see the future of modern warfare, you're not looking in the wrong place. What you're seeing is a raid, a hostage rescue, and an airstrike, all happening simultaneously. It's a rare peek into how elite units might execute a hostage rescue in a near-peer fight against an adversary with air defenses. And it's all coordinated through a series of encrypted messages and codes that make the difference between success and disaster. Let me introduce myself. I'm the host. This is The Deep Dive. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome to our channel, where we break down the tactics, technology, and training of real-world special operations and modern warfare. Today, we're dissecting a high-stakes fictional special operations scenario. We'll be breaking down the communication, strategy, and execution of a complex mission that involves a hostage rescue and an airstrike. This isn't just about the action. It's about understanding the incredible planning and coordination that happens behind the scenes. We'll be using a transcript from a simulated operation to understand the key phases: insertion, reconnaissance, assault, and exfiltration. Before we jump into it, let me tell you why this is important. As conflicts evolve, so do the tactics. And in today's world, highly trained special operators often find themselves coordinating intricate operations with fighter jets, drones, and other assets. This kind of interoperability wasn't always so common, but now it's becoming the norm. Okay, let's get into it. Like any mission, this one starts with intelligence, referred to here as J2. They have two critical pieces of information. First, they have a confirmed sighting of a captured British national, presumably someone important, since it's a hostage rescue mission. Second, they know there are 3 hostile anti-aircraft systems in the vicinity, which means this operation is happening in a no-fly zone. This adds a huge layer of complexity because air support is off the table. To solve this, a sniper team, called 10, is inserted days in advance. Teams inserting early aren't uncommon in special operations. It gives them time to observe enemy activities and prepare for the main assault. The sniper's primary objectives are twofold: confirming the enemy positions, like whether or not the radar is online, and monitoring patterns to create a rough timeline of events. This is what's known as finding and fixing the target. Now, 10 is in place and they've been watching the compound for some time. They report that the radar is online and manned, meaning the anti-aircraft system is active and ready to shoot down anything that enters the airspace. Now we move to the second phase: insertion and synchronization. Remember, the clock is ticking. They need to neutralize that radar and open up the airspace before the main assault. At last light, the main assault teams, 20 and 30, insert via raiding craft. Again, notice the careful choice of words, last light. This ensures they move in under the cover of darkness. The communication between the teams is concise and calm. There's no panic. Instead, you've got a mission command that's orchestrating the entire affair. The information flowing from the teams is crucial. When Team 20 reports Horseshoe Rex complete, they retelling the command that they VA surveyed the area and everything seems secure for the moment. Walk to me is a direct order for the team to move towards the leader. No room for misinterpretation. Special operations teams rely on this level of precision and clarity. Any slip could compromise the entire mission. Now, here's where the plot thickens. Team 320 has orders to neutralize the second anti-aircraft missile site. Why? Because if they can't use the first site, they'll need to open up a safe corridor for the F-35s to reach the third site and destroy it. So they're setting up a relay race of sorts, ensuring the airspace is clear for when they need it. In the background, the plan is set. At 050 hours, the F-35 jets will strike a weapons depot to distract the enemy and divert their attention away from the actual target. All of this is happening under the cloak of darkness, a testament to the skill and training of these elite units. As the sun rises, the sniping team, 10, spots a sentry at the radar station. They request permission to engage. Command responds with, "You are clear to engage." Only after positive identification, they take the shot. The sniper's dialogue is a masterclass in precision. They're calling out the range, deflection, and aiming point. This isn't a cowboy shootout. It's a calculated risk to eliminate a threat. Snipers exist to take out high-value targets from a distance while minimizing risk. Here, they've successfully eliminated the sentry, but the danger isn't over. The team's exposure has increased and they need to move. We move into the third phase, execution and adaptation. Team 220 is moving in to secure the hostage, but command cuts their timeline from a presumed 30 minutes to just 15 minutes. That's a significant change. It tells us that even in training, the operational tempo can change. Special Ops demands this level of adaptability. The battlefield is a fluid environment, and plans are only as good as their ability to change with the situation. Team 320 has to neutralize the second anti-air site, but they're still a bit of a way off. The clock is ticking. They need to improvise and speed things up. Meanwhile, the snipers have moved to a new position, maintaining their Overwatch. They're still on the lookout for threats and gathering intel. The ground controller for the airstrike, call sign 0, is prepping for action. He's confirming the attack heading, the type of weapon they'll use, pave way for bombs, and crucially, he's confirming the location of friendly forces to avoid any fratricide. This is standard procedure. You don't want your jets bombing your own men. The sniper spots another target, a vehicle approaching the house. They call it impasses. The beauty of having an Overwatch team, they have eyes on the ground providing real-time updates. With the new information, command decides to adapt the plan. Team 320 is ordered to engage the vehicle and neutralize its occupants. This is a dynamic adaptation based on new information. It's a small but vital change. And the execution phase, Team 320 engages the vehicle successfully. Now the path is clear for the airstrike. The controller calls cleared hot. This is the authorization for the pilot to release the weapons. The jets do their job. The weapons cache is destroyed. Mission accomplished. Or is it? Not yet. As Team 220 is exfiltrating with the hostage, Team 320 has to sprint to their extraction point. They've been exposed and they're vulnerable. They need to move fast. Finally, we come to the fourth phase, airstrike and exfiltration. The exchange between the ground controller and the pilot is concise and professional. The controller confirms the splash, the bomb hitting its mark. This is important. If the target is not destroyed, the pilot needs to know so they can make follow-up passes. Thankfully, the bomb hits the mark and the jets are clear to return. Now the focus shifts to the extraction zone. Team 220 has the hostage and they're moving to the chopper. This is the final leg of the operation. Everything they've done so far has been leading to this moment. The mission isn't over until they're on the chopper. The last order is comply with egress. It's a reminder for everyone involved to prioritize getting out safely. The operation ends with the successful extraction of the hostage and the completion of the airstrike. So what can we learn from this? Modern warfare is a highly complex endeavor. Success in such missions relies on meticulous planning, flawless execution, and the ability to adapt to the battlefield. Whether it's snipers providing reconnaissance, special operators conducting raids, or fighter jets performing airstrikes, each element plays a critical role. This simulation highlights the importance of communication. From the coded messages between the teams to the concise exchanges between the pilots and controllers. Clear and accurate communication is what prevents chaos and ensures success. The ability to adapt is equally important. As the mission unfolds, new information changes the plan, and operators must be ready to adjust. The sniper team, the assault teams, and the aircrew all exhibit this kind of adaptability. If you thought this was interesting, you'll love our episode on the raid on Osama bin Laden. You'll find the link below. Thanks for watching. I'm the host. This is The Deep Dive. Stay safe and we'll see you next time.